Welcome back to Unhinged. I'm Sean. We're continuing with the American Millennia series. I'm going to do a quick episode on China. So, China, several decades ago, part of the Communist Revolution when the Communist Chinese Party took over, implemented a one-child policy. Fast forward in time to 2024, they have an aging demographic. The one-child policy limited their population growth and, frankly, stunted it. They are running out of young people, workers, everything. It was the worst thing they could have done, and it's going to be the thing that kills them, in my opinion. Let's move into what's happening in the real estate world of China. In China, real estate is probably the best and really only investment that the average Chinese person will have access to, so they all put money in real estate. Well, now they have a massive overinflation, I guess you could call it. They have too many units per person, and a lot of these units were built out of this horrible concrete tofu dredge material, and they're just falling apart. China Insider has a lot of great videos on this, but if you look up Chinese buildings falling over on YouTube or Google, you'll see it. It's these horribly constructed, horrible materials. They just will not last. That's going to cause a crash of some kind. That's going to wipe out the average Chinese person's investments. They're also having a wave of consumer finance debt default. Again, mostly in the real estate sector. And all this is happening while in the past year they've reached a debt-to-GDP ratio of 288%. They're overextended and overleveraged. Their foreign investment, according to the Wall Street Journal, just a few months into 2024, has fallen 20% from just last year, and it was already going down. They can't have any more debt. They can't borrow any more money. They're running off the cliff, or they're getting close to the cliff. I think China used debt as a steroid. They used debt and foreign money to jump ahead rapidly. And kind of like with an athlete who uses steroids, eventually they're going to be burned out. And this is what's happening to China. I want to talk about the land system a little too, the provincial system. We have states here in America. China uses this provincial system. I think there's only 8, but really it's 11 because some of the big cities operate like their own provinces like Shanghai, Beijing. These provinces don't really get the tax. They don't really get a lot of help, so the provincial governor has to find ways to raise money on his own. And the best way to do that the past few years has been these land investment vehicles. It's easy. You sell and rent out land that you have, cheap Chinese land. That's not working. With the real estate issues I just discussed, a lot of the debt defaulting and the fact they're running out of the decent quality land to do that, they're also running out of options there as well. So the provinces aren't going to be able to raise as much money. And it's also worth noting how the Chinese government will subsidize certain industries. So like right now, the big push is electric vehicles. So I think on average, every province in China has like 8 electric vehicle manufacturers. The only problem is not that many people are buying electric vehicles. So they have a surplus. So the Chinese are trying to dump this surplus on France and the European markets, and they're not having it. The French were talking about baring their teeth, word for word, baring their teeth. So the Chinese can't dump their stuff on other people anymore, and they have these entire industries that are paper tigers. They were subsidized, so everyone went into them because that's the only way to make money there, and they can't sell the product anywhere. And I also want to say on the provincial system, they don't have an interstate commerce clause in China. This means that if one provincial governor has to get anything from his province to another, he has to pay and bribe his entire way through. The Chinese system is incoherent and corrupt. You think it's bad here in America. It's very bad there. This is highly unstable. So let's keep moving forward. I'm trying to run through a lot of Chinese things real quick here. I'm not trying to spend 3 hours on this, although I would love to. China has no blue water navy. Nothing. They're trying to build these submarine fleets and whatnot, and they're trying to build these carriers, but it's not working. They don't have the experience or the industry or the know-how to do it. And keep in mind, America, France, and Britain have collectively the best navy the world has ever seen. America by itself has the best navy the world has ever seen. We have all the super carriers, most of the carriers just by ourselves. And the reason I mention that is because the Taiwan and Malacca situation. Taiwan, the island nation independent from China right off the coast, the Chinese want to take that over to reunify for the One China vision. They'll need a blue water navy to do that because we'll be there if they try to take Taiwan. They can't do that. Kind of a big wrench in the plan. Then you have the Malacca dilemma. somewhere between 60 to 80% of Chinese fuel, their oil, goes through the Straits of Malacca so they can power their country. A very large amount of their food also goes through the Straits of Malacca. That is a massive weakness for the Chinese. If a Navy SEAL team decides to do backstrokes in the Straits of Malacca, the Chinese country just shuts down. And they don't have a blue water Navy to do anything about it. If push come shove come to bayonet with China, the Western powers or America by itself just needs to put a single ship in the Straits of Malacca, and China will starve to death or freeze to death. No power, no food, or at least not enough to survive. I think it's fair to say that China will deal with itself. Barring all else, the demographic issue alone means they're dying out on their own. I don't see it as a long-term threat to America. The reason I'm calling this series the American Millennium is because I think America is going to be more or less unchallenged in its dominance in the next few centuries. We have demographic issues here, but nowhere near as bad as the Chinese or the Russians. If the Chinese just go up in flames, they just take a step back from the world stage, no one really talks to them for a long time, and they just disappear. The worst thing that'll happen here in America is we'll run out of panties and bras, and we'll just have to make those again. That's one of the great things about the Chinese situation. America is going to be forced to reindustrialize to make up for the cheap labor we're losing with China. But that's great for America. And I think it's worth saying that I don't think China is going to blow up. I don't think it's in anyone's best interest to let that happen. We all want to keep making money and doing business. But I don't think China, because of the demographic issues and all the other issues I mentioned, is going to play anywhere near a role it's played in the past few years. I think it's over for China, and they'll go back to being more or less a backwater country with significant size, but not what they were. Or maybe it does explode and we get another World War period out of China. You never know. History repeats itself. This is Sean. Have a good day. Like and subscribe.